Hey y'all, welcome to this week's show. Today we're going to talk about three plants. Normally I'll do one or two, but these are, they're vines, they're vining plants. One of them's really interesting. All three are useful. These are from my book, The Medicinal Shrubs and Woody Vines. And, good time for me to put in a plug. You can still order one of my books from Amazon and should have it in time for Christmas. My books make great Christmas gifts. So do subscriptions to the newsletter, which is always optional. I put out free podcasts, I put out free articles, I put out more free info than just about any herbalist in America as far as I know. Thousands and thousands of hours over the past, I don't know what we've been doing this, 5-6 years. But I do have the subscribe option on my Substack newsletter. If you're interested, you can support my work. And, of course, an ebook can always be ordered even at the very last minute. I will check my email Christmas morning. I'll check my email Christmas afternoon and evening. If you forgot somebody and you want to get them a quick ebook, just let me know. And as always, if you buy someone a book from me, an ebook, PDF, I can't do this with the hard copies from Amazon. If you buy one from me, and tell me it's a gift for somebody else, I give you a second as a thank you gift for yourself. So remember, that's something you can do for yourself and your friends, family, and loved ones. Now let's get into our plants. And we're going to start with, I believe it's pronounced Akebia quinata. No, this one is not native to my area, but it has been naturalized. You will find it as an ornamental in some places, as with all vines. All your woody vines, especially woody vines. I'm thinking wisteria, ivy, kudzu, of course. They have a tendency to get out of control. Akebia will pop up in unexpected places. Now, I don't have a lot of information on it, but according to Plants for Future, the stems are anodyne, antifungal, antiphlogistic, bitter, diaphoretic, diuretic, amenagogue, febrifuge, laxative, galactagogue, resolvent, astringent, stimulant, stomatic, and vulnerary. Wow, that's a pretty darn medicinal plant. Let me see, what terms have we not talked about before? I'm going to get you the absolute... let's see, antiphlogistic was one of them. I want to just kind of look these up real quick and make sure I give you the proper definition. I'm misspelling it. There we go. antiphlogistic. Very long word. An antiphlogistic is an anti-inflammatory. Well, I was hoping it was going to give me more information because I already knew that. Oh, it also helps with fever. How like aspirin can bring down a fever and is anti-inflammatory. It lessens redness, swelling, fever, Swellings, it lessens fever or like hot swellings, so fevered swellings. Helps with pain. Anything that an NSAID would be used for. An antiphlogistic is good. What else did I not? Okay, you know what antifungal is. Oh, anodyne. That's an old word. It's not used very much anymore. Let me see what the official definition of that is. Anodyne. Anodyne. Capable of soothing or eliminating pain. Well, okay, this is what I thought. Relaxing, though. Okay, no, there's a property we didn't talk about. Anodynes can also be relaxing. So you've got the properties here of an anti-inflammatory that also is going to help relax muscles and such. So bitters, obviously, diaphoretic means it reduces fever. Diuretic means it helps take off excess fluids. Emmenagogue means it stimulates menses, so should not be used during pregnancy. Febrifuge also means it helps lower fever. Laxative is obviously. Galactagogue means it increases mother's milk. You know, this was something that really annoyed me. I'm going to guess, what, almost 5 years ago now? Maybe not quite that long. You remember there was the great shortage of infant formula under the Biden administration. And everybody's freaking out. Their kids are going to starve to death because they have no infant formula. Okay, so this was about the time they let me back on Twitter, or X as it's called now. So what? Maybe more like 3 years ago. I said, understanding that not all women can lactate, and understanding that many are talked into taking a pill to stop lactation by their doctors for no apparent reason other than it makes pharmaceutical companies and infant formula companies a lot of money, and maybe it's a little more convenient, whatever. Most mothers can breastfeed. The vast majority, well over 90%, can naturally feed their children. That's kind of the way God designed things. In the past, when someone couldn't, they would find a wet nurse. So you got a friend that's got a kid, had a baby about the same time, you can actually ask for a favor or pay that person to fill in, right? I said, now understanding all of this, and I'm being very non-judgmental, even though I believe mother's milk is the very best thing for a baby to have. Babies who are breastfed have much better immune systems, more strength, longer lives, less obesity, less diabetes, less kidney disease. All right, I'm not going to be judgmental in any way, shape, or form. I know several dozen, if not 100 herbs that can increase breast milk. Email me or reply, DM me, whatever, and I'll send you the list for free. You know, we got a problem, let's try to fix it. Let's see. On that post, which was one of the first things I posted when I went back on Twitter, 1,200 plus women called me an idiot, cussed me out, gave every reason why no one should ever have to breastfeed, and not a single one wanted the herbal information to learn how to actually solve the problem on their own or cope for a few weeks while the market got back to normal. Now, I'm not exactly sure what to say about that. I would say the vast majority of my listeners are women, because women tend to be more interested in herbal medicine than men. And out of the several thousand people that saw that post, probably 10,000, because people were sharing it, some said, he's doing a good job, pass this on, this could be useful information. But in the comment section under my post, 1,200 people telling me what a jackass I am. And out of the 10,000 or more, probably much more, who saw it, not a single one wanted to know about an herb that would increase lactation. I don't know where to put that. To this day, I don't know where to put that. My philosophy, it's self-sufficiency as much as possible. Do for yourself. Don't rely on the government. Don't rely on businesses. Grow your own food if you can. This one to me seems like a no-brainer. I mean, yeah, maybe you have to work for a living, and it is inconvenient. I got that. I wasn't being judgmental, okay? But women have fed babies for tens of thousands, if not millions of years. Suddenly in the 2000s, the 2020s, now they say it's basically an impossibility. What went wrong? Knowing that's healthier, knowing that infant formula basically just sets a child up for diabetes and heart disease and kidney failure because it's nothing but sugar and a few vitamins. I know it's a little more than sugar. When it started out, though, it was basically just sweetened condensed milk, and the doctor said it was better. And then they started this whole campaign. I think Bernays may have even been part of it. You know, the father of propaganda, Freud's nephew. That only poor women would breastfeed. Women that had money would buy formula. And so it was like frowned on and looked down on to breastfeed your child. I think that's pure evil. I mean, honestly, I think that's one of the most evil things ever perpetrated on Western culture. But you got to remember, Bernays was also the man that encouraged women to smoke because he said it was a sign of women's liberation. He was being paid by the tobacco companies. He was the father of propaganda. He worked for the American government and the Nazis. He was a bad guy. But, I mean, doesn't just common sense say that if there's an infant formula shortage, and especially if your child is having trouble with other types of milk, right? Like most kids are pretty good with goat milk, but a lot of them have problems with cow's milk. Or sheep's milk can be better. It has, you know, different lactose, whatever. It seems to me that would have been a good idea. Not a single one wanted to know. I still don't know where to put that. I really don't. I get a lot of questions on helping with menstrual cramping or excessive bleeding and such as that. Always glad to help. Always glad to offer advice. I don't give advice. I don't give medical advice, but I give links and resources and tell people what's been traditionally used. Even then, if someone says, I'm having a hard time, and they post it publicly, and I say, I'm an herbalist, you know, let me know if you want to talk privately, and I can maybe offer a few suggestions. There'll be 30 or 50 or 100 people saying, you know, he doesn't know anything about this, he's a complete fraud, and they don't know a thing about me. I really don't understand. Oh, and you have to take Tylenol. They're always pushing over-the-counter or prescription meds. I really don't understand how it is even women on more the natural side of things in America have been convinced that the only answer is to go to a doctor. The only answer is to go to a drugstore. The only answer is to buy something made in a factory. I don't get it. I really don't get it. But anyway, probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks, could even be next week, I'm going to have another interview with Liz, oh gosh, is it Reitzing or Reitzing? I always mispronounce her name. She has to tell me every time. Calls herself the Raw Milk Mama. She's very popular online, big personality. She's coming out with a new book. I got to take a sneak peek at it. It's fantastic. You're going to love it. Reitzing. Almost had it. She's going to kick my butt when she hears this. But anyway, Liz is great. Liz was a friend of a friend. She's very well known. She's even been interviewed by Naomi Wolf. I mean, she's one of the leaders of the raw milk and natural foods and food security movement. She's in the D.C. area. She does a lot in the legal field. And reason I mentioned, so there was a shortage of baby formula. The garbage people feed their kids to make them diabetic and shorten their lifespans and obese and everything, okay? Wouldn't that kind of be the definition of food insecurity? If you can't get formula and your child's going to starve? If you were in that position and you did not at least consider breastfeeding, maybe it's time to look in the mirror. Now, Liz has had, 5 kids. She's going to, I'm sure, discuss this topic Her kids had some lactose issues. That's why she got on this path. And as I said, I know not everyone can. But you tell me why mothers weren't forming groups to share breast milk. You tell me why mothers were not forming groups to learn about unpasteurized goat and sheep milk. Why did it take a government solution? In other words, what the hell is wrong with you people? Seriously. I mean, you vote for Biden, you put his ass in office, he destroys the economy, and your kids are starving to death, and you won't even do what God gave you the ability to do? What the hell is wrong with you people? I mean, I love it if you're listening to my show to learn about herbal medicine to treat a head cold. That's great. I'll give you that information all day long. But, I mean, I said, I think it was at the time, I said, I don't understand this. It's like if someone's starving and they say, I need a loaf of bread, and you hand them a loaf and they look at it and say, no, I don't like rye bread. I only want, store-bought white bread. I don't want whole wheat. I don't want sourdough. I only want Wonder Bread from the grocery store. I gotta say, again, what the hell is wrong with you people? And not you specifically. If you're listening to the show, you're probably more thinking along the way I do. But what the hell is wrong with our society, our culture, especially college-educated women? I've told this story before as well. It was worth bringing up because it was so outrageous. Before I started doing this herbal medicine podcast, I had a little cooking blog, back when blogspot.com was popular. And it was just about the way I cook from scratch. You've seen my Omnivore's Guide cookbook. And at some point, a lady got in touch and said, I can't boil pasta. What am I doing wrong? Okay, this was like mind-boggling to me. I started asking her questions, and it turned out she did not understand the difference between boiling water and simmering water. She was bringing her pot barely up to a simmer, dumping the pasta in there, and it would just stick together and turn into a blobby mess. And, I mean, we went back and forth for days before I got that figured out because, obviously I thought there was something preventing her from boiling pasta, following the directions on the back of the bag. Or the box, I guess I should say, in this case, because she was using dried pasta. I tried to ask her about her stove, the pot she was using, everything you can imagine. How long was she cooking? I thought there was a legitimate reason, and it turned out she did not understand the difference between boiling and simmering water. Why do I bring this up? She wasn't an idiot. She was not an idiot at all. She was someone who was about 40 years old, from a modern home where both parents work. Her mother never taught her how to cook. Moved all over the country, was taught by a cook by her grandmother, and had a PhD. Yes, she had a friggin' advanced degrees in, I don't remember what it was, English maybe? And she did not understand the difference between boiling and simmering water. And her vote counts the same as mine. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have a tremendous problem with stupid in this country right now. A tremendous problem with stupid. And I'm sorry, but it does seem to be coming predominantly from one group. They usually have purple hair and rings through their nose, and advanced degrees from universities, and about $500,000 in debt paying for a degree in gender studies or basket weaving or lesbian dance theory. If the human race comes to an end, it will be from extinction from our own stupidity. And it will be due to people who have advanced degrees and no sense whatsoever. Anyway, where was I? We were talking about Akebia. After giving all those amazing list of words. We said anodyne. That's basically anti-inflammatory and soothing and all that. Antifungal, antiphlogistic, also relaxing, soothing. Bitter, diaphoretic, lowers fever. Diuretic, gets rid of excess fluids. Emmenagogue, it brings on menses. Febrifuge, lowers a fever or helps break a fever. It's kind of different than diaphoretic. Anyway, it doesn't matter right this minute. Laxative, galactagogue, increases mother's milk. Resolvent means it can help, again, basically break a fever. I mean, like bring things to resolution when it comes to a cold or flu, like that. Stimulant, usually more for the appetite. Stomatic, settles the stomach. And vulnerary, which means wound healing. Taken internally, it controls bacteria and fungal infections and is used in the treatment of urinary tract infections, lack of menstruation, to improve lactation, etc., which 99% of women apparently have no interest in. The stems are harvested in the autumn and dried for later use. The fruit is anti-rheumatic, means arthritis, good for arthritis. Diuretic, febrifuge, stomatic tonic, is popular remedy for, okay, it has folk use as a cancer remedy. I have no evidence to back that up necessarily. If you want to look into that and you can find some clinical trials, it's great. I do actually have some information from the PDR on it, but I'm not going to make that claim because I never make that claim. It's too serious an issue to make claims you can't back up. Root is febrifuge, and this is interesting. The plant was ranked 13th in a survey of 250 potential anti-fertility plants in China. Why is that? Well, because it can stimulate menstruation. So don't use this while pregnant, and you want to be, of course, careful with anything that could do that has those properties. Now, the PDR says animal experiments have demonstrated an antidemic effect attributed to saponin. Oh, so it's got saponins in it. We talked about that last week a lot. In addition, it was diuretic, lots of different things, antipyretic even, mildly analgesic, motility inhibiting, and that actually had to do with the effect on the intestines, so it could be good for diarrhea. But it could also, again, be careful, because if it's motility inhibiting, not only could it stop intestinal cramping, but it could cause constipation. Effects have been reported, although no results of controlled clinical studies have as yet been published. So, very strongly medicinal plant. Definitely we need to take a much, much deeper look at Akebia. This is Akebia quinata, against Akebiaquinata. All right, moving on. I got a short entry on Ampelopsis, which is Virginia creeper. This is ubiquitous in North Carolina, at least. Eastern states. I don't know throughout the whole country. I use a ton of it for basket weaving. It does not have a lot of medicinal value. Let me get a sip of water here. Virginia creeper, from Florida up to New England states, you'll find all over the place. It was, however, used by the eclectics, one of the early schools of American herbal medicine. Dr. Wood said it was an alterative, which means can almost what we call a tonic. Sometimes it can kind of help you back to health, and also a tonic, and he may have meant more stimulating appetite at that point. An expectorant. The bark and twigs are the parts employed. Dr. McCall of Memphis in a medical journal said the infusion of the bark he used for dropsy, that's edema. He believed it to act rather by stimulating absorption rather than a diuretic. Okay. This plant can be pretty toxic, so I'm not endorsing anything. Plants for Future says specifically the variety of porcelain berry. The fresh fruits and leaves are antiphlogistic, depurative, febrifuge, resolves clots, used internally in the treatment of boils, abscesses, ulcers, traumatic bruises, and aches. Now, Virginia creeper does have toxicity to it, not one you want to play around with unless you've done your research. So anyway, now we'll get to Aristolochia, and this is the one that's actually, I think, of the most interesting of these. There's actually a fairly wide family of Aristolochia. Here in America, we have Dutchman's pipe. We have snake root, Virginia snake root. These were plants used by the Native Americans, especially the Cherokee, that were introduced to the early settlers. Very powerful, again, some toxicity, but they're also Aristolochias that are European, and going all the way back to Dioscorides, well over 2,000 years ago, he said Aristolochia, and this is Greek tradition of herbal medicine, would help women in childbirth exceedingly well. Now, big caveat, I'm not going to recommend it for that use, but the American ones were also used by Native Americans for similar uses, so we'll get into that. He goes on to describe it, excuse me, and, my word, I'm getting a catch in my throat some off. Get another sip of water here. He said that clematis was also an Aristolochia. Now, clematis is actually the Ranunculaceae family, so he was mistaken on that, unless there was a common name that was being used interchangeably. Because of that, I don't really want to get into a lot of his uses, because there could be confusion over which plant was being used. But I'll give you a sort of a general view. It was used for asthma, rickets. It's a vitamin deficiency that causes malformations of the bones of the legs of children. Chills, good for an inflamed spleen. For hernias, convulsions, and pains of the side. It was mixed with iris and honey. Iris also has toxicity to it. I don't think we need to get too much into the ancient Greek use, okay? Just because there is a little bit of, well, I should say at least a little bit of confusion. But they did make an ointment combining it with lard, essentially they said swine grease, and rubbed on it would help with chills and various ulcerated sores and such as that. Now, the one that was most used in European herbal medicine is called birthwort. It's actually a different plant than the one that's sometimes called birthwort in North America, also called bethwort or bethroot. That's actually trillium, so very different. St. Hildegard von Bingen wrote of the birthwort, the Aristolochia that she used in Germany. St. Hildegard von Bingen, I said it wrong again. She said, pulverize its roots and add half as much feverfew powder and 1/4 as much cinnamon powder. Mix them together and eat it daily, either with bread or with warm wine or broth. You will have no great or lasting infirmity until the time you die. That's quite a claim, isn't it? That if you were to eat this type of Aristolochia with feverfew and cinnamon in wine or with bread, you would have no great lasting infirmity until the time you die. No one should shun the powder prepared in this way. If a healthy person eats this powder daily, he will not be lying in a sickbed for a long time. If he is sick and eats it, he will be well. In order to conserve the powder safely throughout the year, it should be placed in a new earthenware vessel enclosed with earth, and it will retain its powers. I need to look into this. Honestly, I mean, St. Hildegard was the greatest herbalist of the Middle Ages. She would have a reason for saying this. I don't know what that reason would be. In my research, I have not found such grand claims made of any of the Aristolochias, but I don't, again, know exactly what variety she was using. So I need to talk with my friend in Austria, or maybe even go visit Germany at some point and do a little research on this one. If it is that effective, it could be a game changer for the entire world. You know, I mean, sounds like a panacea. But we're translating from Old German, written in 1080. I can't be sure that what she wrote was accurately translated. I can't be sure of the exact identity of the plant, and you know, maybe something got lost somewhere along the way. So we're going to take that one with a grain of salt as well, not a grain of cinnamon. That would be probably more tasty. But Gerard, 1500s England, after quoting Dioscorides, says the round birthwort serveth for all things, and also for the rest of other poisons. It is likewise available against the suffering of the lungs, the hiccot, the shakings or shiverings of agues, hardiness of the milt or spleen, burstings, cramps, convulsions, pains of the side, if it be drunk with water. Now, okay, Gerard, the Queen's head gardener, friend of Shakespeare and all that, not the greatest herbalist in the world, not the greatest botanist in the world, but a good gardener who did not speak Latin, would have no idea of the writings of St. Hildegard. But he's also recommending an Aristolochia called birthwort, this one being called the round birthwort, and listen to all those uses. A serveth for all these things. An antidote against poison. Decongestant for the lungs. The hiccot is the hiccup, by the way, so good for hiccups. The shakings and shiverings of agues or fevers. The hardiness of milt, that means sperm. I mean, he thought it would increase fertility. For the spleen, for burstings or hernias, cramps, convulsions, pains of the side. And that was combining it with water. Now, that I consider to be interesting. Here are two herbalists, essentially, 500 years apart, and as far apart as wherever I can't remember, Bingen in Germany to London. Not going to be a lot of crossover there. One Catholic, the other Protestant. Not going to be a lot of crossover there. But somehow they're coming up with a lot of similar uses. He said applied topically, it would help pull out thorns and splinters. It's also good for shivers, chills. We've heard that use before, I think from Dioscorides. It was used mixed in plasters and poultices. Would removeth corruption, mundifieth and scoreth the filthy ulcer. What does that mean? It healed sores. Okay. And help protect against infection. He quotes Galen saying that it has a pleasant smell and was used in ointments. That's cool. He quotes Pliny the Elder. He said it was used as a remedy for cramps and convulsions, bruises, and such who have fallen from high places. He said it's good for them that are short-winded and are troubled with the falling sickness. That actually means a form of epilepsy. It's very interesting. And even in 1500s, when he wrote this, he speaks of one that he says is the Virginian Aristolochia or Pistolochia, which had a strong and aromatic scent. So already they had discovered in the 1500s. It's pretty early on in North America for colonists to be using Native American herbs. He said it was singular and much used antidote against the bite of the rattlesnake. So that's rattlesnake root. That's the Virginia Aristolochia. Very interesting. Also good for kidney stones. And I'm just trying to summarize here, but said it would help with the malignity of the poison of the bite, which in a very short time would otherwise be proved deadly. Now, if you know much about Native American herbalism, there are probably 24 plants that are called snake root, so you do have to differentiate and figure out which one they're talking about, because one tribe would call it an entirely different plant, snake root. But this one had a lot of research into it, and the Cherokee used Virginia snake root for sharp pains as a cold root tea drunk to relieve a headache, root decoction drunk for stomach ache, root decoction blown upon the patient for fever. They would take basically a piece of bamboo, a little bit of river cane, and put a little bit of the tea in there and spray it on somebody, blow it over them. That's actually was a kind of common way to use herbs in the Cherokee culture. It was used to a decoction also drunk for cough to cure snake bite. In that case, they said chew the root and spit it upon the ground. It must be pretty strong if that could do anything for a snake bite. I don't know. Thank God I've never been bitten by a poisonous snake. Boil the root for to relieve toothache, put a piece of the root in the hollow of the tooth. Boil the root for a short while and drink the tea for heart trouble. Drink a root tea and chew the root and swallow the juice for colds. A cold root tea is good for coughs. If a person gets wounded in an accident, like being cut with an axe, etc., a cold infusion of the entire plant when drunk will relieve the pain and prevent fainting. That's impressive. I mean, if you get cut with an axe, you're going to be hurting. The bruised root would bring relief when held against the nose made sore by constantly blowing it during a cold. So even going back to pre-modern times, the Cherokee culture, they were blowing their nose enough to have a snore nose, and somehow it would numb it out, I guess. Because they said it would numb a toothache, I have to imagine it's a numbing quality. I need to start using this plant. I know a lot about this plant. I know its uses. I have not had need to use it. I get some and dry it. I'll share it with people. But sometimes I get congestion in my lungs. I'll give it a try next time. Usually there are other herbs I go to first that grow all around me. I won't get into that right now. But yeah, I need to look into this one a little bit more, especially for those pain relieving effects and whatever St. Hildegard von Bingen was talking about. So the Lumbee used Aristolochia serpentaria. That's snake root again. Said they used it for tea. Used a tea from the roots to treat colic, indigestion, and as a diaphoretic or help with a fever, and for obstructed menstruation. Now, the first American herbal was called Towards an American Materia Medica, and this is going back to the 1700s. It said the snake root, Aristolochia serpentaria, is one of the more stimulating tonic bitters. It is certainly a valuable medicine in the second stage of certain fevers after the inflammatory diathesis has been removed. I'm not sure what diathesis is. Someone else who knows ancient medical terms better than I probably would, but yeah, okay, you're going to be hard-pressed to find somebody that knows ancient medical terms better than I do, but I bet there will be one. I bet there will be one, and it'll probably be a liberal woman with blue hair and a ring through her nose who's going to now make fun of me online, and I won't take offense to that whatsoever, because if you actually do know the name of that word, you're one up on me. I may have one up on you in many other ways, but yeah, that's fine. You can pick on me if you want. I actually, usually when someone picks on me, I actually take it really well. I laugh and I kind of respect somebody who has moxie to do that. Don't take it too far, though, obviously, because I will fight back. But usually, if it's good-natured, it's a Southern thing. We pick on each other. We make fun of each other. We, have a lot of very colorful and sayings and a lot of foul language that friends actually use and family members use toward each other as a sign of affection. I know that's weird to some people. I'm sure there's some of y'all out there that get it. But in the South, if someone is picking on you, they usually have respect for you. If they're not saying anything to you, they don't like you. That's just the way things work. And that's always my attitude. When someone challenges me online, I respond good-natured and humored. If they respond in kind, good-natured and with humor or with genuine questions, I'm cool with it. If they come back with just, nasty insults and confrontational and aggressive, I just delete them and move on. I just delete their comment. I don't delete them. Maybe I should qualify that statement. But I pay them no attention whatsoever. I don't have time, energy, or interest in objectionable people. But anyway, I said it was used with great benefit in most malignant fever attended with carbuncles, which prevailed in Bristol and Delaware in 1749 to 53. Then another species of the genus Aristolochia sipho grows in the neighborhood of Pittsburgh and other parts of the United States. This is a large climbing plant. The root has a pungent aromatic taste, and for certain purposes is perhaps preferable to the common snake root. That in description it sounds more like Dutchman's pipe to me, so I'm not sure. Let's see. Thomsonians made use of it. Dr. Thompson himself wrote This is a well-known article that grows wild and may be found in most parts of the country. It is of a hot nature and is much made use of for tea and measles and other eruptions to keep the disorder out, for which it is considered very good. This is owing to its warming qualities, which keep the determining powers to the surface, which may be produced by almost any strong stimulant. I guess that's the reason I don't use it very much is we have wild ginger where I live, and if I'm thinking I need an herb to like warm me from the inside, break a cold, break up congestion, that's probably going to be my go-to. It's rare in some areas. It's quite abundant behind my house. I can find plenty of wild ginger, so I harvest a little of that, So he said it is stimulating to the mucous membrane throughout, and large frequent doses may prove irritating. Same with wild ginger. I think they're related, actually, especially if the alveolar canal be already more or less irritated. In such cases, more soothing agents will be better, both in languid and sluggish conditions. It arouses promptly and fully. In eruptive diseases, before the appearance of full eruption, essentially boils, it would help bring them to a head. I'm not going to keep trying to read this word for word. Good for the treatment of nettle rash and Ruis poison. This poison sumac. Very interesting. Said it had to be given freely for a few hours and then stop. Interesting. Very, very. I haven't tried it for that either. It's always good to have an extra remedy for, that would be poison sumac, which we don't get a lot in my area, but maybe we work for poison ivy and oak as well. Good given during parturition, especially if the feet are cold, and there's generally receding blood from the surface. That sounds pretty serious, actually. Cold preparation given freely in the influence of the kidneys to relieve congestion and renal torpor. All right, some more modern use. Medicinal plants of southern Appalachians. I guess it was written, 15 years ago now, so it's more modern. It says American Indians used Virginia snake root to treat a wide variety of symptoms as a remedy for snake bite. The fresh, bruised root was applied directly to bites. The fresh roots were also applied to relieve toothache. It was used to relieve pain, especially sharp pains of the stomach or breasts. Small doses of the infusion were used to treat rheumatism, indigestion, fevers, general weakness, and as a gargle for sore throats. Botany a Day says Dutchman's pipe contains a volatile oil, an alkaloid, a strong and toxic acid. The tea is used for infected wounds. Plants are described as bitter, diaphoretic, and vasodilating, used to stimulate digestion, promote sweating, and white blood cell activity. A tea of the root is used as an let me try it again. Oxytocic. I think that's how it's pronounced. Oxytocic. To stimulate uterine conceptions during childbirth. Okay, so again, this is one of those plants that can stimulate uterine contractions. So it would be very dangerous to use in certain situations. Before time. You don't want to start a miscarriage. But generally speaking, oxytocin is more mild in its action than other stimulants. When you hug somebody, you're going to get a little oxytocin. So I wouldn't freak out about it, but I wouldn't advise it during pregnancy in any way. Caution is advised using the herb. The root has also been chewed and applied as a poultice for snake bites. So in that case, it was a poultice, which makes a little more sense. Plants for future states, medicinal use of Virginia snake root. Virginia snake root is attracting increased interest for its medicinal virtues and as a result becoming uncommon in the wild. So apparently being over-harvested is what they're saying. It merits consideration for cultivation in forested areas. It is used in a number of proprietary medicines for treating skin, circulatory, and kidney diseases. The plant contains Aristolochic acid, which stimulates white blood cell activity, speeding the healing of wounds, but is also carcinogenic and damaging to the kidneys. Wow. The root is harvested in the autumn and dried for later use. It's antidote, anti-inflammatory, bitter tonic, diuretic, stimulant, traditionally chewed in small doses to promote sweating, stimulate appetite, promote expectoration or congestion. Native Americans consider it to have analgesic properties and used in infusion internally to treat rheumatism pain, but especially sharp pains in the breast and as a wash for headaches. The plant should be used with caution due to its irritating quality in large doses. It can cause nausea, griping pains in the bowels, and should only be used internally under the supervision of a qualified practitioner. I think I agree with that statement. The bruised root placed in the hollow of the teeth for treating a toothache. Extract of the root can be drunk to relieve stomach pains. Boiled root or decoction of the whole plant can be used to treat fevers. Root chewed or crushed was applied to snake bites, also the leaves. Species was the most popular snake bite remedy in North America. It has also been applied externally for slow healing wounds and for the treatment of pleurisy. And for Dutchman's pipe, they said the species has medicinal activity that's similar to but weaker than Serpentaria, so weaker than Virginia snake root. And then they just repeat the same information, so I'm not going to give the same. Just say, remember that Dutchman's pipe is weaker than snake root. Peterson Field Guide to Central and Eastern Medicinal Plant States. Virginia snake root, aromatic root nibbled in minute doses or in a weak tea. That's 1 teaspoon dried in 1 cup of water. Promotes sweating, appetite, and expectorant. Used for fever, stomachache, indigestion. Suppress mid-season snake bite. Gargled for sore throats. And for Dutchman's pipe, used like Serpentina, but much weaker in effect. Little used, but warning, potentially irritating in large doses. So, really interesting plants. Two of them very powerfully medicinal. None of these in modern herbal medicine are much utilized. So I think we need to do some more research on these. We need to study them and experiment with them and really see what place they have in herbal medicine, because at certain times they've certainly been very well respected, and where I live they're pretty darn abundant actually. So y'all have a great week. I'll talk with you next time.
The information in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or condition. Nothing I say or write has been evaluated or approved by the FDA. I'm not a doctor. The U.S. government does not recognize the practice of herbal medicine, and there is no governing body regulating herbalists. Therefore, I'm really just a guy who studies herbs. I'm not offering any advice. I won't even claim that anything I write or say is accurate or true. I can tell you what herbs have been traditionally used for. I can tell you my own experience and if I believe an herb has helped me. I cannot nor would I tell you to do the same. If you use an herb anyone recommends, you are treating yourself. You take full responsibility for your health. Humans are individuals and no two are identical. What works for me may not work for you. You may have an allergy, a sensitivity, an underlying condition that no one else even shares and you don't even know about. Be careful with your health. By continuing to listen to my podcast or read my blog, you agree to be responsible for yourself, for your own research, make your own choices, and not to blame me for anything ever.